Welcome to the Stories Told podcast. This is episode 141. Sometimes things are more than they appear. This is the Stories Told podcast. Two authors talking about stories in movies, TV, and of course, books.
I'm Michael Grayford. I write action-adventure stories in fantasy and sci-fi worlds, sometimes for younger readers and sometimes for adults. And I try to always inject at least a little bit of humor.
And I am author E.W. Barnes, and I write action-adventure, time travel novels, and space opera science fiction. Thousands of years, thousands of worlds. But be forewarned, beyond here, there will be spoilers. Are you ready for the adventure? Let's begin. Welcome back to the Stories Told podcast. I'm author E.W. Barnes, and with me is author Michael Grayford. And today we're talking about the story told in the movie Shrek. I should say the 2001 movie Shrek, because there are multiple Shreks. This is the original, and oh, by the way, it's almost 25 years old. Can you believe that?
That's crazy. No, I can't believe that.
How are you doing today?
Good. Excited to talk about Shrek. How are you doing?
Yeah, me too. I'm doing well, thank you. And what's new in your writing world?
Same stuff, just working on pre-pro for the third Tales of Zara book. Yeah, it's just going slow, rolling along really, but that's where I'm at. How about you?
I have 2 chapters of Umbra, sort of kind of in place. They both need editing badly. It's more like a word vomit than good chapters, but I'm like know where I'm rolling now, so that's really helpful. So I do need to go back. And the first chapter, I don't know about you, but I always like edit and re-edit and re-edit and re-edit the first chapter, and no other chapter gets that much attention as the first chapter does.
Yeah, for me, I think it's the same. For me, it's the first chapter and probably the end, the wrap up, the sort of the falling action and resolution. Usually because my first draft, those are very short. I just like the end. So I have to flesh that out a lot more and edit it to match kind of what you had talked about before. Make sure it's sort of mirroring or echoing what happens at the beginning.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and tell you about what I'm doing, because I'm thinking it's abstract enough that it's not going to provide any spoilers for folks.
Okay.
But the mirror that I'm putting into this book, this is the 4th book in a 5-book series, is that one of my characters starts the story really working hard to shut off the communications module so that he can't be reached. Every time he thinks he's got it fixed, another message comes through and he keeps trying to shut it off. And at the end of the book, it's going to be him desperately trying to get a communications module functioning.
Good. Yeah.
And then finally succeeding in that. Smart. I'm hoping. And it will be, I'm thinking if I do it that way, it is going to be a little bit of a cliffhanger in a way. So I'm going to have to be very careful, because I try very hard to not have true cliffhangers in my stories. I will wrap up everything that's in the novel. That's, the sort of the main, whatever the main drive is in that novel. But I might have at the end something that's, suggests there's a new issue arising on the horizon.
Yeah.
So, but I also, on the other hand, if you're 4 books into a 5-book series, I'm thinking the readers are committed and they're going to go on to book 5 anyway. So maybe having a little bit of a cliffhanger there isn't such a bad thing.
Yeah, I think it's probably fine for that.
And the book is going to be available. I mean, I'm not releasing the series until all the books are finished, so it's not like somebody's going to have to wait a long time.
Yeah. Then I think it's perfectly fine.
Have you encountered anything interesting in books, movies, or television?
Let's see. I'm still reading the 3rd book in the Scythe series.
Yeah.
Almost done with that one, I think. And I watched old movie Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Oh, wow. That is an old one.
Which I had never seen before.
Oh, you'd not seen it. Did it meet your expectations?
It did not. I think it's if you like those two actors, they do a fine job. The story is pretty weak. There's not a lot there. I guess it's a tragedy story. I don't know. You've seen it, yes?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to ruin it for people, but I think most people probably know how it ends. But yeah, it's kind of a tragedy, I guess, because they don't learn whatever lesson they're supposed to learn, and that's how it goes. Which was fine, and it has some charm to it. It just felt very light, kind of pointless ultimately for me. Just not my kind of thing. Yeah, maybe it's a different era too.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I saw it. I'd never seen it before. It's one of those classics. I like to know what people are talking about when they refer to things. So
yeah.
How about you? You encounter anything interesting?
I am continuing to watch the Star Trek Starfleet Academy series, and I'm going to tell you, I like it. The last episode I watched was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. And I've realized that the best way to watch this series is to sort of not take it too seriously.
Okay.
And by that, I mean, The Next Generation took itself very seriously. It was all about classical music and the Prime Directive, and Deep Space Nine took itself very seriously. It was about the war and, all these terrible things happening to people. And Voyager took itself very seriously. It was all about getting back to Earth and doing some exploration on the way. This show it's not light. It just doesn't take itself that seriously. There's serious moments.
Yeah.
Which I think add to it. But it's actually really enjoyable. And I'm still loving Holly Hunter. And I was a little worried, we have these young people, and I was really worried about the angst level. And there is some, because it's natural for that age, but that's not what this is all about.
Okay.
And so, I'm really enjoying it. Much more than I thought I was going to. And
that's good. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that.
Once I took a sort of a step back and didn't approach it the way I would approach Next Generation or Deep Space Nine, then all of a sudden I was like, this is actually really good. The writing is good. The characters are good. Yeah.
I think Strange New Worlds has a mix of that. There's definitely episodes where you're not taking it too seriously.
But this is different and Strange New Worlds actually has a comedic vibe to it. This is not so comedic, just not so heavy.
Yeah.
There are comedic moments, absolutely. It's just, yeah. Okay. We have it on our schedule to talk about it in a few weeks, and I'm hoping that this continues, that the sort of the level that I have learned to sort of watch this continues to keep that. And once, like I said, the writing is really good and the character development is really good, and I'm enjoying it.
All right, cool.
Shall we talk about Shrek?
Yeah, let's dive in.
Today we're talking about the story told in the 2001 movie Shrek, and I'm going to read the overview that comes up when you type Shrek into Google. Once upon a time, in a faraway swamp, there lived an ogre named Shrek, whose precious solitude is suddenly shattered by an invasion of annoying fairy tale characters. They were all banished from their kingdom by the evil Lord Farquaad. Determined to save their home, not to mention his, Shrek cuts a deal with Farquaad and sets out to rescue Princess Fiona to be Farquaad's bride. Rescuing the princess may be small compared to her deep, dark secret. Did you enjoy this movie?
Yeah, I liked Shrek. I think I've seen all of them. I saw this when it first came out. I don't know that I've seen this movie since then, so it's kind of interesting to go back and see it with new eyes. I didn't really remember so much. I just kind of remembered the highlights of it, but I think it holds up pretty well. I enjoyed it. Definitely, it sets the tone right from the start, with the irreverence, so you know what you're in for. It's a twist, right, on the standard sort of Disney kind of fairy tale story. It's obviously mocking those kind of movies in a pointed way, not necessarily mean-spirited, but it's definitely having fun with those characters and the tropes and kind of doing its own thing, which I think was something that was needed for a non-Disney group to try to do this. I don't think they could just, hey, let's just do a Disney movie, right? It's not that kind of thing. So they went their own way, which was smart. Story-wise, character-wise, I think they do a great job of setting up Shrek right at the beginning. You see that he just wants to be left alone. But there's also hints that that's not what he needs, right? Setting up the want versus need situation. And, we see the invasion of his home by all the other fairy tale creatures and characters. And that gives him a good reason to go seek Lord Farquaad. So sets him off on his journey. It all made sense. There's all very good setup and start to the journey. It gets into it very quickly. I like that it doesn't dally around too much. It's here's a setup and let's go. So I think they did that great. There's a lot of subversions of expectations in this story, obviously. I mean, the whole thing is that with, the ogre being the hero versus, the knight. And we've got the ogress, right? Fiona, who transforms into a human, but is really an ogre at heart. The female dragon is a twist and falls for the donkey, which is funny. And then the ogre gets the princess at the end, which, again, another twist. There's a lot of things like that I think they're not just gimmicks, which this movie could have just been like a gimmick. And there may be some things in there that are a little bit that way. But as a story, it works. I think it works perfectly fine. And it works for the theme of the story. And it holds up pretty well. I think character-wise, it makes Shrek oddly likable by having him being so curmudgeonly. It's so over the top that it's endearing in a way. It's just kind of funny and you can appreciate it. And at the same time, you see that he has a softness inside of himself at times. So you see that, there's a kernel there that he's not just a jerk all the time. And then likewise with Donkey, it's like that character could have just been straight annoying as Shrek found him initially. But we also see that, he's a good character. He cares about Shrek. He cares about Fiona. He wants to do the right thing. He even likes the dragon. So, yeah, it gives us things to like about each of these characters, except for Farquaad. Obviously, they set him up as sort of a stereotypical villain. We see that he doesn't care about his subjects at all, which, seems a bit extreme. But honestly, even in real life rulers, we see that people just use others for their own gain. So it's not that far off, even though it seems maybe stereotypical and caricature. There are people who are like that, sadly. So you can understand and relate to all these characters. I think in Fiona, we see her go from being sort of an actual stereotype princess to being her own person. And then, coming into her own and realizing who she is and accepting that. So I think overall, like all of the character development is really good. The story makes sense and it's a lot of fun. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. What about you?
I agree. And it's funny, you had almost the same notes that I had. I enjoy this movie very much. I agree that the open is terrific. And every time you meet sort of your main characters, you see what their needs are. Every single one of them, right? You see what Shrek's need is. It's his need is for family, for people who care about him. And Donkey's need is for someone to care about him. Shrek wants to be left alone. Donkey wants to have somebody to be a friend. He needs a friend. Yeah. Fiona needs somebody to love her for who she is. So, and, they all sort of need that. Even Farquaad needs that. And they all respond differently, right? Shrek responds by isolating himself. Donkey responds by trying to find a friend. Fiona responds by trying to fit into a narrative that she's been told that's supposed to happen to her, even though that's not actually the case. And Farquaad, of course, tries to make the perfect kingdom by being a bigot and a jerk. And I think, like you pointed out, the subverted expectations are delightful because, your standard story has the ogre as the bad guy, the king as the good guy, the princess as the grateful damsel in distress. And this is all subverted. But one of the things that I was thinking about when I was thinking, okay, look at how all of these roles are flipped on their heads. And I was thinking, could I do that? In order to do this well, which is what this movie does, you really have to understand the role that these characters play in story so that you can turn them on their head in a way that actually works. If you don't understand the role these characters play, you can't do it. Then I think what you said about being gimmicky is the way it feels. Even if you intend to make it not gimmicky and really do something unique, it will feel gimmicky if you don't understand where these people start with so that you can turn them upside down. To me, that was a sign of brilliance on the part of the original author, because this started off as a book, and then the screenwriters.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So we like this movie. Is there anything we might have changed?
Well, at first, there's a couple of not really story-related notes. We had mentioned in another movie, Ladyhawke, how the music kind of pulled you out of that world.
Oh, and, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in this movie, it has sort of this pop music vibe set in a fairy tale setting, but it didn't really bother me that much in here, or at all, really. I thought it still kind of works, but I do feel like maybe that will age less well as time goes on. Because for me, a lot of those songs are still like in my head, relevant.
Yeah.
But for people who they're not, they might be like, "What is this?" You know. But it also kind of works with the subversion of expectations. So I might be wrong there. It's just something I noted. And then there was another moment where Fiona does this kick and the camera like stops in a Matrix moment and like spins around her.
Yeah.
That feels very like of the time. Like it was funny at the moment because the Matrix was still fairly new in our brains. And there hadn't been a million things that copied the Matrix in so many different ways. We talked about this when we discussed the Matrix, how much impact that movie had on other films. And this is one of them in that moment. Lots of things kind of played off of that sort of camera trick that they did in that movie. And now it just feels odd. Like if you weren't there at that moment, it's like, it just feels like this weird thing that they threw in there just because of that. But I don't think holds up for me. It doesn't really ruin the movie or anything. It's just, it pulls me out of the movie in that moment. So yeah, that was a small thing. Something story-wise, character-wise that bothered me just a little bit was Fiona's initial characterization. She's so stereotypical in that princess mindset that she really does seem like a cardboard character at the beginning. And I realize she's going through growth and will change from that into, the deeper person that she is later. But I would have liked to have seen just something of who she was at her core in the earliest introduction of her, rather than just being the stereotype. Even if you just said something like, "Oh, that's a cute donkey," something just to like show that there's a person under there, as opposed to just this cartoon character. So that was something I noticed. Again, not a huge thing, not super important. I just would have liked to have seen just a hint of that, because her change seemed so abrupt to me this time watching it through.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, those are the things I noticed. What about you? What would you improve, if anything?
I think for me, I might have cut out the Robin Hood scene, the entirety of the Robin Hood scene. I don't think it actually contributed much to the movie. I think it was supposed to show that she was different than Shrek expected her to be, but I think there were other ways to show that. I thought that whole scene was kind of jarring and a little annoying. So I think I might have taken that out. And the other piece that I think I might have liked to, I realized as I was watching this, is I would have liked to have just a little bit more of Shrek's backstory. And maybe that could have been a conversation that he and Fiona have as they're walking, just sort of talking a little bit about his life and what led to him being who he is. You're kind of given the suggestion that his whole life he's been torch and pitchfork reactions to him, and that's why he is. But I think just a little bit more specific backstory might have been helpful. That's what I pulled from it.
Yeah. I like those suggestions. Yeah, the Robin Hood thing, I think there needed to be something there kind of to give us a little bit more about her, because actually those two things you said kind of go together in a sense. Like, what is her background? Like, how is she able to fight like this? That's not really explained. We don't even see, we see Shrek beating people because of his size, but not because of like wicked martial arts skills. So, they just kind of hint like, oh, she had to fend people off or something like that. I forget what they said, but yeah, having a little bit more backstory maybe would have been, and have her show her true self in a different way might have been more effective than that Robin Hood moment. Because you're right. Looking back at it, yeah, I can see what you're saying. It's not super critical to the story in terms of like the action of what happens. It's more just the character moment they wanted to have there. And I think you're right. They could have done that in a better way, perhaps.
Did you pull any themes from Shrek?
Yeah, I mean, I think this one's fairly obvious.
Yeah.
Don't judge a book by the cover. Beauty is not skin deep. It's who you actually are underneath, kind of thing. Yeah, that's I think is the main theme. That's what I got.
Yep, and that's what I got too. Who you truly are is beautiful.
Yeah.
As a writer, what do you take away from Shrek?
There's a couple things I wanted to take away from this. One is subversion. I like flipping the sort of expected common script of how things play out. In this case, in particular, having both the hero and the princess be the supposed ugly ogres. I thought that was really clever. That's something I tried to do with my Zara series, in particular the first book, kind of a play on Aladdin type story. But I try to flip some of the expectations and tropes to be a little bit unexpected. So I like that. And the other thing that I noticed watching this movie, right, it's sort of this subversive fairy tale, but it's really a genre mix because Shrek is a romantic comedy. I realized at the end, right? It's like, oh, there's the wedding scene and it comes to break up the wedding scene. It's like everything in this movie. There's the meet cute, when they first encounter each other. Like it's a romantic comedy in a fairy tale universe. So I really like that genre mixing type of thing. And I think this does it really well.
I would add to it, it's a buddy movie that becomes a romantic comedy.
Right, yeah. Good point. Yeah.
In a fairy tale setting, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So I think what I take away from this is also the value of that subverting expectations and in doing so in a way that is delightful and charming. I mean, that's part of what really works here. It's delightful and charming and it completely works, and that plays well in a buddy movie and a romantic comedy. But also sort of taking away, to me, the recognition that in order to do it well, you have to know what you're doing when you're writing story. So that's what I take away. It's
also one of these movies that mocks the genre while being a good example of the genre. And I think that goes to what you're saying. It's like you really have to understand what the thing is that you're kind of poking fun at.
Yeah.
In order to also be that thing and be good at it. I think it does it well.
I agree. Thank you for joining us as we talked about the 2001 film Shrek. A huge thanks to our Patreon supporters and all our listeners. If you want a story that carries some of today's vibe, consider checking out Michael's young adult fantasy novel, The Golden Scarab of Balahar, an enchanting quest that will captivate readers who love magic, wonder, and a dash of humor. That link is in the show notes. The Stories Told podcast is available on all major platforms. Please like, subscribe, or follow to help us reach more story lovers like you. For book, TV, or movie suggestions, subscribers can drop a note on our YouTube channel. Join us next time as we talk about the story told in the Minecraft movie. Thanks so much, Mike. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you.
And we'll see you next time on the Stories Told podcast.